Today is the 17th day of June 2025. It's about 20 minutes past 8 o'clock in the morning. And this is the run up to Mirth Mission 6. There's 3 texts that I want to overlay as prep. So the first one is the text. Actually, it's going to be the last one. So it's What the Robin Knows by John Young, the thematic material for the June instance of the Mirth Mission construct. So pattern. That particular text provides the textual thematic material for the program. So the first one, I want to read a little bit out of this text. By the accounts of Rossano, Winkleman, and Williams, among others. I should say this is from page 23 of John Vervaeke and Christopher Mastro Pietro's Awakening from the Meaning Crisis, Book 1, Origins. Bottom of page 23. By the accounts of Rossano, Winkleman, and Williams, among others, the advent of shamanism can plausibly account for the sudden explosion in cognition that took place during the Upper Paleolithic transition. Critically, this is not a, quote, hardware change. The human brain had already existed for 160,000 years, and it did not undergo significant physiological changes during the Upper Paleolithic transition. This was more akin to a software update, an exaptation that changed how human beings used their brains. As I will argue in later chapters, shamanism likely played a significant role in that software change. He's so careful with the metaphor. I'm not talking about software. Software is a metaphor. It's kind of like software. If shamanism was like a software update, we can conceptualize it as a form of technology for the brain. Also, metaphor. Not technology, metaphor. Technology for the brain, or a psychotechnology. As the cognitive scientist Andy Clark wrote, you are a natural-born cyborg. Your brain has evolved across several species to use and integrate tools into its everyday functionality. When you start using a tool, even for a very short period of time, your brain will begin to model it as part of your body. When you are parking a car, for example, you can sense where the edge of your car is. The car turns invisible. It becomes an extension of your person. This spatial co-identification also allows a tool to work so effectively. The same is true of your clothes, which modify your mobility and dexterity through various environments. Your eyeglasses or contact lenses disappear from your vision, even while enhancing it. Cutlery, writing implements, weapons, wristwatches, the list goes on. When we add smartphones and Bluetooth technology to this pattern, we see just how penetrative our technology has become, how coextensive it is with our identities and experience. This technologization can become a problem, as Martin Heidegger famously observed, when it monopolizes our mode of participation and turns the entire world into a tool, wanting to be optimized. But there is little doubt that it has made human beings tremendously adaptive. Yet this is not the end of the story. Your ability to internalize a tool can be exapted into a cognitive process, and this is how psychotechnologies become possible. A physical tool fits into your biology, extending its capacity. A psychotechnology fits into your brain and enhances how it operates. To find an example, consider that you are using a psychotechnology right now. Literacy. This tool does not come naturally to you. you may have been born linguistic, as Noam Chomsky has argued, but you were not born literate. In fact, human beings were completely illiterate for most of our history. Literacy is now so embedded in our culture that it is difficult to account for its many functions. This set of tools standardizes how you process information and allows you to share, remember, develop, and transform that information. I do not have to retain all of my knowledge in my mind. I can write it down and return to it later. I can see patterns in it that I didn't see before. I can adjust and add to it across time. This means I can see and adjust myself across time. I can link my brain to its counterparts in the past and future and network all of these moments of problem solving together. I can also network my brain with your brain and mutually improve our ability to solve problems. Think of the effect on mindsight and the distributed networks we discussed above. Literacy allows me to know you better, know myself better, and know what it means to know better. It therefore gives me the capacity for what we call second order thinking. That's the first excerpt. The second one is going to come out of this book, which I happened to notice on the bookshelf this morning. This is probably coming from my time at the UW in the business school there. So I'm just going to read. The book title is On Emotional Intelligence. And it says, if you read nothing else on emotional intelligence, read these definitive articles from Harvard Business Review. And I'm going to take this from pages 90 and 91. And the point that I want to make here has to do with generational differences. So, working in the workforce now multi-generationally, this particular bit, so this text, my time at the UW was circa 2006, say. So this is coming up on 20 years old at this point. So that gives a contemporary context and progression here. The point being that what was true then isn't going to be exactly true now. Things have obviously evolved in the workplace, and that is blatantly obvious to me for one who has participated in that workplace for about 2 decades now. Training courses can also go a long way toward increasing emotional awareness and showing people how to regulate emotions. We know of many companies that now focus on emotional issues in leadership development courses, negotiation and communication workshops, and employee assistance programs like those for stress management. These training programs can sensitize team members to the importance of establishing emotional intelligent norms. So the word sensitize jumps out at me. Finally, perhaps more than anything, a team can be influenced by a broader organizational culture that recognizes and celebrates employee emotion. This is clearly the case at IDEO, and we believe at many of the companies creating the greatest value in the new economy. Unfortunately, it's the most difficult piece of the puzzle to put in place at companies that don't already have it. For organizations with long histories of employees checking their emotions at the door, change will occur, if at all, one team at a time. Becoming intelligent about emotion. The research presented in this article arose from one simple imperative. In an era of teamwork, it's essential to figure out what makes teams work. Our research shows that just like individuals, the most effective teams are emotionally intelligent ones, and that any team can attain emotional intelligence. In this article, we've attempted to lay out a model for positive change, containing the most important types of norms a group can create to enhance its emotional intelligence. Teams, like all groups, operate according to such norms. By working to establish norms for emotional awareness and regulation at all levels of interaction, teams can build the solid foundation of trust, group identity, and group efficacy they need for true cooperation and collaboration and high performance overall. I like high performance. Okay, last one, which is bringing us back to the beginning here. So the textual thematic material for the June instance of the Mirth Mission construct within the Crawford built construct This is What the Robin Knows by John Young, with science and audio editing by Dan Gardoki. Probably mispronouncing that. Apologies. This is from page 77, and it's the subheading that says Getting There. I ended up spending 7 years in that sit spot in New Jersey. It wasn't until the 4th year that I realized with a start that a few of the birds had been with me the whole time. It was very likely that the catbird I saw over and over, breeding season after breeding season, who acted the same one from the previous year, with all the same haunts and habits, was indeed the same individual. This insight very likely applied to any number of species around me. Maybe I assumed, as many people do, that all the birds are about the same age. A year or two, then they die. This isn't right. The average bird has more of a chance of being eaten in its first year. But those who live past the adolescent rites of passage probably live several years, breeding and raising young. As a corollary of the first incorrect impression, I probably also assumed that since birds fly, they're always flying, and long distances at that. It's my sense that most people have this general impression, but it, too, is wrong. Taking migration out of the equation, most birds do not move around much, even after the main territorial season. Nesting has concluded. They're homebodies. I finally understood this. After 7 years, I understood so much more about the habitat. I had acquired some pretty serviceable jungle etiquette, too. The chickadees were often very close, even occasionally landing on me. As it turned out, I was, totally unwittingly, a professional in training. But enjoying deep bird language doesn't require making a career of it. Not at all. 3 days a week, half an hour every day, opens the same door, just more slowly. Moreover, students today have one tremendous advantage over those of my generation, even those who enjoyed the mentoring of the likes of Tom Brown. Our knowledge of bird language is now codified, more so every day. Even this book, an informal introduction to the subject, presents more information in usable form than I ever had as a beginner. Breaking down the most pertinent vocalizations into the 5 categories laid out here is a big advantage in and of itself. In that respect, the door does open more quickly for today's students. So, I guess in closing, there's a couple of things I want to say. The one is I feel humble knowing that I stand on the shoulders of giants. So much work has been done that I simply am born into and enjoy by grace, I'll say. And then the second thing that I will say, which is a bit formulaic at this point, is I really appreciate your very careful attention.